Smash that like button to follow episode 21, where James faces John's devious scheme and Diep fights for love, standing up for what truly matters, an emotional and determined journey you won't want to miss. In the quiet corner of a cafe, attorney Ha sat sipping his drink, his mind replaying the recent conversation with James. James had opened up about his intention to sue John over fraudulent investment behavior. Specifically, John had invested in James's company but then abruptly breached their agreement, pulled out his capital and even incited other shareholders to do the same, causing serious damage to the business. James was determined to seek justice, but Ha cautiously reminded him that there wasn't enough evidence yet to press formal charges. Just then, something unexpected happened. John walked into the cafe and headed straight for Ha. Without hesitation, he made a shady offer. If Ha was willing to betray James, he would pay 500 million VND up front and 5 times whatever James was offering to ensure the lawsuit failed. But Ha firmly refused. "I stand by my client," he stated. Ha's unwavering stance clearly irritated John, who left without another word, his frustration barely concealed. Meanwhile, on a lush green hillside, James and his younger brother were discussing the impact John had caused to both the company and the farmers. His brother shared some good news. Several investors had returned after damning evidence against John had been made public. Taking advantage of this momentum, he proposed building a new office to expand the company and offered financial support to James. Deeply moved by his brother's encouragement, James felt renewed strength. Yet what weighed most on James's mind was confronting John directly. After much thought, he made the bold decision to meet face to face. The tension was palpable. James laid it all out. He had enough evidence to take John down legally. He didn't mince words and demanded that John convince the shareholders to reinvest, to save the project and the struggling farmers. In return, James promised to destroy the evidence if John agreed to cooperate. John appeared to relent and accepted the deal, but his calculating gaze betrayed him. Deep inside, he was already plotting revenge, driven by a grudge that had been festering for 35 years. James could sense John's deceitful nature but chose to stay calm, holding on to the hope that a peaceful resolution might still protect the company and the people who depended on it. In the gentle morning sunlight, Tu Diep made her way alone into the forest to pick bananas. The winding trail curved through tall clusters of trees, with a soft breeze rustling the leaves, carrying the fresh scent of the mountains. She walked quietly, a large basket in hand, her eyes steady though tinged with weariness. Today she planned to gather as many bananas as possible to sell and earn a little extra money to get by. The green banana bunches hung high above her head, forcing Tu Diep to stretch and use all her strength to cut them down one by one. Sweat dotted her forehead, and her rolled-up sleeves revealed slender but strong arms. Once she had collected enough, she gently arranged the bunches in her basket, carefully covering them with banana leaves to help them ripen faster. On the way home, her thoughts turned to her mother. Her heart grew heavy as she pictured her mother's kind yet tired face. When she arrived home, she quickly put the bananas away and began preparing nourishing food to bring to her mother's place. It had been a while since her last visit. The work at James's farm kept her constantly busy. Tu Diep quietly blamed herself for not being able to care for her mother more often. At her mother's house, she stepped in softly and saw her mum sitting by the fire, stirring a warm pot of porridge with her frail hands. Seeing her daughter, the older woman smiled gently, her eyes filled with love. Tu Diep quickly unpacked the food she had brought, neatly arranging it on the table. Her mother asked about her health, her work, and gently reminded her to take care of herself. During their conversation, her mother quietly expressed a wish. She hoped Tu Diep would move back home. She didn't want her daughter struggling far away, and worried that no one was there to look after her. Tu Diep lowered her head in silence. She understood her mother's concern, but her responsibilities at James's farm weren't something she could walk away from easily. Caught between two paths, she weighed the choice of continuing her work or moving back to care for her mum. As the afternoon light faded, Tu Diep said goodbye and began her journey back to the farm. Her heart felt heavy, her mind tangled with thoughts. She silently promised herself to find more time to visit her mother. Life was hard, but she was determined to strike a balance between duty and the love of family. After resolving the issues with the company and John, James hurried to visit Diep. He knew he had caused her worry and wanted to make it up to her in some way. When he arrived at the farm, he saw Diep sitting quietly by a small hut, her gaze distant, lost in thought. Gently walking over, he softly called her name. Startled, she looked up, her eyes showing a mix of surprise and happiness. Before she could say a word, James gave her a warm smile and said, "Today I'm cooking for you." Diep looked a bit surprised but nodded in agreement. James headed to the kitchen, quickly lighting a fire and starting to make chicken soup, her favorite. Watching him fumble around the kitchen, Diep couldn't help but laugh softly, feeling a strange but comforting warmth inside. When dinner was ready, they sat facing each other in the cozy hut, the dim yellow light casting a gentle glow around them. James looked at Diep with sincerity and began explaining the truth behind pretending to be sick earlier. He said it wasn't to deceive her, but to fool John. James had been afraid that if John found out about their relationship, Diep might be in danger. He didn't want her caught in the crossfire or used as leverage. Diep listened closely, a sense of warmth and trust blooming inside her. She knew James always put her safety first, though a part of her still questioned why things had to go that far. Gently, James reached for her hand and reassured her. "I'll always protect you, no matter what happens." Just as they were enjoying the peaceful meal, James suddenly received an urgent call from his family. He looked at Diep with regret and apologized for having to leave so quickly. Before he left, he promised to make it up to her for the romantic evening they had to cut short, earning a soft smile from her. Alone again, Diep returned to the little hut, her mind racing. The farmer's words from the other day echoed in her head. James's family isn't good. She couldn't help but wonder, was it true? Did James's family really have a dark past like the rumors said? Sitting by the now faded fire, Diep stared out into the pitch-thick night. Despite the lingering doubts, she still believed in James and everything he had done to protect her. But deep down, a quiet worry remained. About the rumors, about the danger that might still be lurking in the shadows. The next day, in the cozy little hut, James and Diep were sitting and chatting, the atmosphere light-hearted and cheerful. James excitedly talked about his future plans for the farm while Diep listened intently, a bright smile on her face. Suddenly, from outside, Diep's uncle appeared, his expression stern. James politely stood up to greet him, but the uncle only responded with a curt nod. He asked Diep to step outside for a private conversation. Under the shade of the pomelo tray, he looked her straight in the eye and said, "Diep, you should stay away from that James guy. His family isn't as simple as you think." Surprised, Diep asked, "Why do you say that? James has been nothing but kind to me." Her uncle shook his head, his voice growing more serious. "His father came back to the country recently and left right after meeting an old friend. Their family is surrounded by secrets. Trust me, don't get tangled up with them. You'll only bring trouble to yourself." Diep fell silent, her mind spinning with conflicting thoughts. Before walking away, her uncle gave one last warning. "Don't let your feelings cloud your judgment. James's family is more complicated than they seem." As she watched him leave, a quiet sigh escaped her lips, her eyes dimmed with uncertainty. From inside the hut, James looked out and noticed her troubled expression, a wave of worry stirring in his chest. The following morning, James showed up at Diep's place, bright and early. Seeing that she was still a bit groggy, he smiled and gently invited her out to help her clear her mind. "Let me take you out for some nem nuang today. It's delicious and fun," he said cheerfully. Diep looked at him and gave a faint smile. "Sounds good." They headed to their favorite grilled pork roll spot. Over the meal, James shared funny stories from work, making Diep laugh out loud more than once. He didn't bring up the conversation with her uncle. Instead, he focused on making her smile, offering small gestures of care and kindness. After lunch, James suggested stopping by a nearby hair salon. He encouraged Diep to try a new hairstyle. She hesitated at first, a bit shy, but eventually agreed. When the styling was done, James looked at her and smiled with genuine admiration. "You look amazing, Diep. I didn't expect you to suit this style so well." Her cheeks flushed a soft pink, and she gave a shy but happy smile in return. On her way home, Tu Diep stumbled upon a man lying unconscious by the roadside. Taking a closer look, she saw that he had been brutally beaten. His clothes were torn and blood stained his face. Alarmed, Diep quickly helped him up and brought him back to her house. She carefully laid him on the bed, covered him with a warm blanket, and rushed to get clean water. After helping him sip a few mouthfuls, she cooked a pot of hot porridge, hoping it would restore some of his strength. A while later, the man regained consciousness, his eyes filled with confusion as he realized he was in a small, unfamiliar home. Diep gently asked, "You're awake? Here, drink a little more water." He nodded weakly, still silent. After finishing the warm porridge, he began to look more stable. Before leaving, he muttered a quick "thank you" and vanished into the night. Without ever revealing his name, Diep stood at the door, watching him disappear, her heart filled with unease about the mysterious stranger. Meanwhile, at the company, James and his younger brother were speaking with their assistant, Tuan. James announced that the issues had been resolved. John had returned his investment out of fear of the evidence James held. To rebuild trust after the hydroelectric project incident, the company decided to offer an extra 10 days' wages to its workers. James admitted his oversight in not thoroughly vetting investors, especially with a project intended to benefit the community. Later, James had a meeting with Min, a new investor. Min explained that he wasn't motivated by profit, but rather wanted to support infrastructure and hydro projects to help rural farmers. He said he was inspired by a kind-hearted woman who always helped others. Possibly referring to Tu Diep, James laid out the vision of the project, building bridges to connect communities, providing clean water and electricity, and promoting the investor's brand through meaningful impact. Though things seemed to be under control, James couldn't shake a lingering unease. The warnings about his family, the strange man Diep had rescued, these felt like puzzle pieces hinting at something deeper. He began to wonder if John's return was just the beginning, and whether his family's past held secrets yet to surface. As for Tu Diep, after helping the mysterious man, her uncle's words echoed in her mind. Doubts crept in, and though her heart remained with James, questions about what might be lurking in the shadows began to take root.
Lại, cô thở dài đặt chiếc lá vào gùi, rồi tiếp tục bước đi, mang theo cả hy vọng lẫn hoài nghi. Tại phiên chợ nhỏ của thị trấn, Diệp bày bó lá rong ra một góc đường nơi dòng người qua lại tấp nập, nhưng chẳng mấy ai để ý đến cô. Cô đứng đó lặng lẽ quan sát những gương mặt xa lạ, lòng trĩu nặng. Một người phụ nữ trung niên ngang qua, ánh mắt thoáng nhìn xuống hàng lá của cô. Diệp vội lên tiếng, giọng nói nhỏ nhẹ nhưng đầy hy vọng. Giọng nhỏ nhẹ nhưng đầy hy vọng. "Chị ơi, chị mua lá rong không ạ?" Người phụ nữ lắc đầu bước đi mà không ngoảnh lại, để lại Diệp với chút thất vọng thoáng qua. Cô tự nhủ rằng không sao, rằng chỉ cần kiên nhẫn rồi sẽ có người mua. Một lúc sau, có một người đàn ông lớn tuổi dừng lại, nhìn những bó lá xanh mướt. Ông hỏi, "Nhà bà có mua lá dong không?" Diệp gật đầu đáp, "Dạ, cháu bán 10.000 một bó." Ông lắc đầu bảo rằng nhà đã có sẵn rồi, chỉ tay về phía con đường phía trước. "Cháu đi thêm vài nhà nữa thử xem, ở đó có người cần." Diệp gật đầu cảm ơn, lòng nhẹ nhõm vì ít nhất ông đã không phớt lời cô. Cô tiếp